Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Guyana's opposition interprets a response to a request to meet with the Commissioner of Police as that of "I am busy." This story takes the lead in our 940th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday, 11th September 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. The opposition leader of Guyana considers a response to a letter he sent to the office of the police commissioner as rude. But the two must meet, according to the opposition leader. HGP's Travis Chase filed this report.
That letter dispatched to the Commissioner of Police acting by opposition leader Joseph Harmon, seeking an urgent meeting to discuss pertinent matters, has been met with an "I am busy" response by the acting commissioner. Speaking at a press conference on Monday, Commissioner Hoppy explained his response to the opposition leader. According to Mr. Hoppy, he responded to Mr. Harmon on Friday last, indicating that other matters have engaged his attention and that Friday, the 11th of September, would be a more appropriate time to meet.
Mr. Harmon engaged me in relation to the letter, and I indicated to him that I had sent a response, but no one was here. Mind you, this was prior to this occurrence at Bordees. So to tie in my response to that of the individuals who were murdered in Bordees is not really here, because it was prior to a formal report from the police, and it had no bearing on what was mentioned or the activity in the Bordees area.
So there was no conversation between yourself and the opposition leader in relation to the incident at Bordees yesterday?
So it does say that two persons were discovered murder, and that is all. It had not, the letter was, the information in the letter was concerned, was spoken to him before that statement was made.
The opposition leader was asked on Monday about Mr. Hoppy's response. Mr. Harmon was at the time visiting the parents of the Berbice teen cousins who were mutilated in a back dam at Cotton Tree. The opposition leader considers Commissioner Hoppy's response rude.
Well, in essence, what he has said is that he got no time with me until Friday. He said really that they will not be able to meet until Friday because there are several matters which he has to deal with. As I said in a statement, I consider that to be very unfortunate, having regard to what is happening here in these communities. I don't know if the police believe that they have all of the answers to these problems, and therefore they do not need to hear from us about the tremendous experience which we have in law enforcement and in community police relations.
The opposition leader feels that the Commissioner of Police is being given directives.
So I trust that the Commissioner and all of those political people who are giving him guidance will understand that this here is about the security and well-being of the people of Guyana. And this is not about keeping the PPP in power. They have to understand that the citizens, all of our citizens, have to be protected. All of them. And that is what we will do. And that is why I guarantee, as the leader of the opposition, that I will keep the PPP feet to the fire once it has to do with the security of this country, that is public security, once it has to do with national sovereignty, and once it has to do with anything which we consider to be in the public interest.
Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News.
Meantime, Guyana has yet again struck oil in its offshore Starbrook block, bringing the total number of discoveries to 18 and adding to an already estimated 8 billion barrels of oil equivalent in its reserves. The details in this report with Wendell Badri of HGP Nightly News.
Late Monday evening, oil giant ExxonMobil announced that it had made more discoveries of oil in the Stabroek block offshore Guyana. This brings the total number of discoveries in the block thus far to 18 and will add to the estimated 8 billion barrels of oil reserve in the block. The well, Red Tail 1, is situated some 1.5 miles northwest of the Yellowtail discovery and was drilled at 6,164 feet of water and subsequently produced 232 feet of high-quality oil-bearing sandstone. Nightly News reached out to the Minister of Natural Resources, Vikram Bharat, for a comment with the aim of finding out what this 18th discovery means for the people of Guyana.
In another 3-4 years from now, we should be hitting the peak. Employment will be generated. Businesses, local businesses will be thriving. They'll be having some amount of business from the oil and gas sector in terms of services. And these are basic services we're talking about that can benefit Guyanese. For example, like drinking water, laundry services, waste disposal, pipelines.
The minister also pointed out that a committee has been established by the president to examine and deliver results regarding local content. Local content in this case refers to the ability of the country through policies and programs to ensure that most of the goods and services supplied to the oil industry emanate from within the country and not elsewhere, unless absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, ExxonMobil, via a statement to the press, also announced that approximately 80 Guyanese employees, contractors, and subcontractors took part in Red Tail activities offshore, and more than 2,000 Guyanese and 600 local suppliers are supporting ExxonMobil's activities in country. Guyanese staff have completed more than 350,000 hours of training in Guyana, Brazil, Canada, Singapore, and the United States. Minister Barrett explained that there is currently $150 million in the Natural Resources Fund, which was derived from the sale of 3 lifts of oil from the Liza 1 FPSO, and spoke to the outlook for the country by 2022.
Where the production started with Liza 1.
Right.
So we had 3 lifts. Right now in the Natural Resource Fund, there is almost $150 million. By 2022, we should have another FPSO in Guyana.
With the 2 additional FPSOs to come on board and a third at a later date, each capable of producing 220,000 barrels of oil per day, by 2026, Guyana should be producing close to 800,000 barrels of oil per day, according to the minister.
These significant discoveries in the new emerging oil and gas sector will provide the necessary impetus to the government's effort to revitalize and recapitalize the traditional productive sectors so that Guyanese can benefit and progress, and which will contribute to wealth generation under the People's Progressive Party administration.
The Stabroek block spans 6.6 million acres and is situated approximately 120 miles offshore Guyana. ExxonMobil affiliate Esso Exploration and Production Guyana Limited holds 45% interest in the block, while Hess Guyana Exploration Limited holds 30% interest and Sinnock Petroleum Guyana Limited holds 25% interest. Wendell Badri for the HGP Nightly News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Owen Batiste, editor of Trinidad Express and editor-in-chief of the Trinidad Guardian, has died. More in this TV6 news item with Marlon Hopkinson.
Owen Batiste, who shared with him more than 50 years of her life. It was in a short post on her Facebook page that she announced the news. His son, Simon Batiste, who in his social media page paid a long tribute to his dad, said Mr. Batiste died at the West Shore Medical Facility last night. He said his father in life had fought his share of demons, but in the end it was diabetes that got the better of him. Calling his father a hero, a Fairless Award-winning journalist, author and visionary, he said Mr. Batiste kick-started the careers of many and was a taskmaster who made sure to get the best out of those who worked for him. He said as a journalist, he was most famous for a series of articles titled No Sacred Cows, a thought-provoking, sometimes scathing series of journalistic pieces that were unafraid to tackle social, economic, political, or everyday issues.
I recall the famous incident at the Queen's Park Oval where there was cricket going on inside, and there were mass protesters outside. Needless to say, the West Indies lost the game inside the Oval, and the protesters got a sound beating from the police outside the Oval. Owen the next morning produced a wraparound headline for the Express newspapers. Licks inside, licks outside. That told the entire story. You didn't have to read the copy or to look at the photographs. You knew what Batiste was speaking to, of, and for.
Owen Batiste was the first editor-in-chief of the Trinidad Express, which was born in 1967. Keith Subaru says Mr. Batiste gave him his first job.
But the Owen Batiste was really a titan. He was a courageous editor. He was a fierce editor, and he tackled the issues. He was also a consummate journalist. Owen mastered all of the specialized functions in journalism. He could have written a news story. He could have subbed the story. He could have laid out the page. He could have also been functioned also as editor. He was also a leader writer. He wrote the editorials. And then he was also a columnist. Covered all of the functions. So today, I don't think there are few people in journalism I could recall who mastered all those functions.
He was also the editor-in-chief of the Trinidad Guardian, a former editor of the Catholic News, a former executive chairman of the Caribbean News Agency, CANA, and a major contributor to the Ken Gordon School of Journalism. He's survived by his wife Rona and his 2 sons. Marlon Hopkinson, TV6 News.
Health Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Malwin Joseph, is vesting hope in the development of a vaccine to stem the transmission of COVID-19. He shared his thoughts on GIS Presents program 2 nights ago. ABS's anchor Andy Liebert recaps his comments.
Beyond saving lives, Health Minister Malwin Joseph is of the view that the economic fortunes of this country can be better served if a vaccine to fight COVID-19 becomes available.
It's being developed, obviously, to save lives, but it also has very important economic implication. You take, for instance, tourism. The setback in tourism has a lot to do with not having a vaccine to fight this disease.
Antigua and Barbuda is in line to benefit when the vaccine becomes available as a result of signing on to a global initiative that will ensure the fair and equitable distribution of the medical treatment.
The WHO, working through an organization, decided that the countries that want to work together, the 175 countries, by the way, and they could participate in this program. In the case of Antigua and Barbuda, we have signed up on the program.
He says after testing, these countries will be first in line to benefit. Nonetheless, the Minister of Health is pleased that Antigua and Barbuda has been effective in the management of the disease. He says everyone has a part to play, and residents need to recognize and adhere to what has been working.
So what we need to accept in Antigua and Barbuda is that the program that we have established, the protocols, even down to the curfew, all these things have worked well. So it is our task is to reinforce what works. And people must consider that the whole idea of wearing a mask is one of the most effective ways of fighting COVID.
The Minister of Health was also full of praise for the other members of his team, as well as the members of the education system and parents who worked hand in hand to ensure that schools were able to open in Antigua and Barbuda this week. Andy Liebert, reporting for ABS News.
I am Eddie Frederick, wishing you a restful weekend. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.